Good day to Dr. Shari and my friends. I'm Naiman 271407 from Group 2. Would like to present on the effects of COVID-19 pandemic towards small and medium enterprise in Malaysia. The COVID-19 pandemic was one of the biggest and most widespread events in the modern world's history. It has negatively affected the world economy, industries, business, and small, medium-sized enterprises the most. SMEs are one of the important sector of creating more jobs, improving the GDP, and connect diplomatic relationship from export and import activity. This outbreak has contributed big impact on SME due to their reliance on supply chains that are nearing a slowdown with increasing raw material delays in an overwhelming readiness to adapt how SME execute transactions. COVID-19 found three patterns of failure among SME and employment. First, the pandemic hampered SME owners. Second, firms experienced problems. The third and most important demonstrated what SME owners anticipate from government and financial institutions to help surviving and falling organizations. This Smes study looks at how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected SME in different industries. Besides, this study also focused on status of business operations that SME faced during COVID-19 and how SME should deal with COVID-19. The research had made an online survey questionnaire in Google Form and sent it to 50 responses from SME industry. There is a section for SME's demographics, which includes how long the company has been in business, where it is located, and how many employees it has, and also what sector or industry it is in. In the section on the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on SME, they are asked about the financial and operational status of their business during the COVID-19 pandemic. Next, for the section on the challenges that SME faced during COVID-19, we also questioned them on how COVID-19 has affected SME business overall, such as the sales volume of products or services decreased during COVID-19, SME innovation increased during the COVID-19 pandemic, and did SME company manage to retain the wealth of investors during COVID-19, and did SME struggling with their company expenses during COVID-19? Lastly, there is a part of the strategy for SME that deals with COVID-19. According to the World Trade Organization, SME make up 95% of all businesses and 60% of all jobs around the world. During the MCO, which is the pandemic stage, 84% of SME say that they had trouble with their internet connectivity and getting in touch with customers and suppliers. A large number of SME were also unhappy with the quality of their connection for work from home. Before COVID-19, there wasn't much low levels of back-end digitalization in SME, which lead to less productivity and efficiency as well as bad company operation. During the pandemic, the government and Bank Negara Malaysia gave 4.5 billion to help SME in Malaysia. Besides, the economy sector facility grants by 1 billion to 6.8 billion to increase the SME finance. Moreover, the microcredit scheme, which is soft loans, will give from 500 million to 700 million. Other than that, SME that have been in business for less than 4 years can get up to 300,000 from Credit Guarantee Malaysia Berhad, from the BIS Mula and BIS Wanita programs. Last but not least, Syarikat Jaminan Pembiayaan Perniagaan SJPP cover 5 billion in loans and raises SME loan coverage from 70% to 80%. Meanwhile, in the endemic stage, most Malaysian businesses are ready to deal with COVID-19 and are putting technology adoption at the top of their list of short-term goals. This is a step in the right direction for Malaysia's economy and its ability to continue attracting high-value, high-impact investment. With the help of economics experts, a second National Recovery Plan, which is NRP 2.0, is being made. This plan will focus on the areas that have been hit the hardest, especially SME. The goal of the program is to make sure that SME will still able to stay in business after the loan moratoriums and salary subsidies that are put in place during the pandemic run out. As we know, the COVID-19 outbreak has caused a lot of unemployment, which will be helped by making it easier for people to move their human capital for work and business. So the reopening of international borders for travelers who are fully vaccinated at this time is good news for the tourism industry as well as all the related business. As part of their effort to get their business back on track, many companies are looking for new business opportunities, expanding their product lines and looking into new market opportunities. When international borders are open again, people will be able to travel to other countries to meet potential customers and promoting their goods. Also, their business partners, customers, suppliers, and technical experts will be able to come to this country to finish deals and start a new project. Next, let's look at the figure here. The figure shows the sector or industry that are looked at through the data collection. This includes wholesale and retail, food and beverages, hotels, tourism, sport and entertainment, automotive, manufacturing, logistics and transportation, and other industries. Out of the 50 responses, 10 are from the wholesale and retail sector, which contribute 20%. The number of responses in the food and beverage sector was 24%, which is 12 out of the 50 responses. On the other hand, only 2 of the responses came from the hotel and tourism industry. Also, there are 3 responses from sport and entertainment industry. The automotive industry with 5 responses from the industry in this research. This research also have 5 responses from the SME in the manufacturing industry. In this research, there is 1 response from logistics and transportation. Wholesaler and retailer buy goods from supplier and sell them to other people. They bring goods made in province or brought in from other countries to the market where people can buy them. The report says that the Malaysian lockdown in the first half and third quarter of 2020 had a big impact on the retail business. During the first half of the third quarter of 2021, most stores were forced to close. The report also talked about the different ways of COVID-19 pandemic affect the retail business in the third quarter of 2021. For example, in the third quarter of the year, the growth of food and beverage went down by 0.8%. During the pandemic, changes in consumer demand and behavior had a big effect on the supply chain and value chain of the food and beverage industry. Tariff and trade problems with the import and export of good food products, which mess up the food supply. The tourism and the hotel business are closely related. As tourism grows in Malaysia, the demand for accommodations will rise along. The cancellation of tourist tours had a big effect on the hotel industry because all the tourists cancel their hotel reservations. The Malaysian Association of Hotel Kuala Lumpur, which is a hotel and tourism hub, had suffered a significant revenue loss of around 23 billion due to the cancellation of 50,000 rooms. Other than that, because of the COVID-19 outbreak, a lot of international sport events had to be cancelled or postponed. Due to the restrictions on sport and entertainment activities, SME have lost money because they can't run their business during MCO. This is a high chance that the COVID-19 will spread because it is hard to wear a mask followed by the SOP when going to sport games and entertainment events. The Malaysian Automotive Association say that sales of vehicles dropped by 41.3% in the first half of the year of MCO. This happened at the same time that almost all businesses shut down during the MCO from March to May. Industrial Production Index data for the manufacturing sector from the Department of Statistics Malaysia recorded there is a decreased by 0.2% in June 2021 after going up by 29.8% in May 2021. The government has imposed a number of restrictions that have made it harder for some economic sectors like the transportation and logistics. This has made more goods and supplies move around, which has created a big need for logistics and transportation services. In conclusion, the MCO affected that non-essential businesses be closed temporarily and large-scale movement be prohibited nationwide. Within a week, 70% of SMEs say that their sales dropped by 50%. The COVID-19 pandemic affected tourism and the food and beverage business in Malaysia. In the long run, this means that the destruction of SME can make a tourism and hospitality industry recession worse. Furthermore, the effect of business operation during MCO will be discussed on 2 aspects, which are financial and operational. Most of the responses, 43 responses out of the 50 responses, say that the main financial effect of the COVID-19 pandemic on SME was reduction in sales and profit. The second higher effect that the SME chose was that the unstable market demand. The shutdown of the government has affected market all over Malaysia because many businesses and outlets don't have enough of the goods and services that people need. The result shows that 32 of the 50 responses agree with it. Also, the results show that low cash flow was chosen by 25 SME respondents as the third effect that affects the way the business works financially. The chart also shows that 23 of the respondents say that low turnover hurts the financial performance of the business during MCO. During MCO, people will change the way they will shop by doing more on online shopping and less eating and shopping during the MCO period. There are four main operational effects, which are uncertain supply chain activity, shortened operating hours, raw material supply, and the digital technologies adoption. Shortened business hours was chosen as the main effect by 42 out of 50 people. From March to May of 2020, Malaysia put MCO 1.0 into effect. The malls, office, and factories were closed, and only groceries and medicine industry were allowed to operate. The SME chose uncertain supply chain activity as the second most important effect. 36% of SME think that this is the problem has an effect on how they run their business because of the MCO. With the pandemic still being a big threat and a few places and businesses on lockdown, supply chain disruption is still a big deal. SME doesn't know if the partnership cooperation of the vendor will keep working together while the pandemic is going on. SME also unsure if the vendor can still make the product with the same level of quality and accuracy within the agreed upon time frame. During MCO, the raw material supply also had an effect on the business. 36% of SME responses agree with this effect. Due to the lockdown in many of the main exporter countries, such as China, vendors' facilities and activity were limited, and international trade for raw products and materials was stopped. This had a direct effect on the operation of SME. It is hard for SME to change the way they do business in a short amount of time. Last but not least, MCO ordered businesses that were not as essential to shut down and then large-scale public activities. Thus, SME are having trouble adapting to digital technology. Based on the bar chart, 32% of SME think that this is one of the difficulties of the outbreak. In order to better understand the challenges that faced by them during COVID-19, we surveyed 50 SME from Malaysia, a network by a network of 1.2 million of SME. According to the research, the decline was significant in Malaysia, where 40% of firms reported a major slowdown, 30% reported a slight downturn, 60% reported a positive impact, 14% completely stopped doing business, and no one said that there was no impact on their business overall. Based on the research, the number of sales was affected a lot in Malaysia, where 56% of respondents say that their number of sales of products and services significantly decreased during COVID-19. Only 40% of those who answered say that their sales volume decreased but not significant, and only 4% say that it had no impact. Lockdown has affected the incomes of clients in many countries, which is the reason the sales are going down. Products for manufacturing and services are becoming less and less in the demand. The low demand is impacting the company's sales and overall turnover as well. Moreover, innovation is now a challenge for all business that want to do well in the world where competition, technological development, and the periodic crisis are the norm. Based on the result of the research, the rise in innovation during the pandemic had a partial effect on SME in Malaysia, where 48% of respondents say that the significantly increase in innovation during the pandemic made a big difference. Only 34% of those who answer has not changed anything about their innovation, and 18% have made it worse. SME are often required to interact with the outside world in order to gain more skills and knowledge and to get cash flow to help them develop new ideas. However, SME won't be as innovative if they don't work with people outside of their company. Based on the data collected, the majority of responses, 70% were slightly affected by how their company keep investors' money during the pandemic. Another 22% of responses are unable to retain investor wealth, and 7% of responses have no impact on it. During the pandemic, many SME not only had to deal with the instability, but they also had to deal with late payment from other companies that were having problems because of the pandemic. This made it harder to invest in a company, its employees, or future projects. This made many businesses worry about their long-term security, especially when they work closely with other SME that had the same problems. Let's look at the strategy on SME deal with the pandemic situation. SME make up Malaysia around 900,000 business firms, which almost 99%. In 2018, about 66.2% of Malaysia workforce worked for SME, which also made up 38.3% of the country's GDP, which contribute around 500 billion. It means that SME need to act and come up with plans to keep their business going during the COVID-19 pandemic in order to stay alive in an uncertain situation. SME concerns about money include cash flow, liquidity, delays in getting paid, and falling sales. Priorities include financial management in reducing labor costs and expenses and loans. Even though SME are important, they are more economic risky than larger companies because they have limited asset and cash reserve as well as have lower levels of output. Therefore, the COVID-19 outbreak has made a big difference in their businesses. Most SME agree with the reconfigure distribution of supply chain structure, which is 22 out of 50 respondents. Out of the 50 SME that respond, only 2 of them did not agree with the strategy. It's been 5 months since COVID-19 spread across the country for MCO and the lockdown that has stopped the business demand and supply chain. To be more competitive on the world stage during COVID-19, it is important to include more local business in the global supply chain and value chain. SME should use digital methods to get around the problems with traditional ways of making money. As more business go digital, companies that do not change with it will find it hard to stay in a business. Most of the SME agree with the strategy for digital transformation, which have out of 50 respondents, there are 21 agree with it. Digitalization is getting better for SME in terms of making them more efficient and competitive. According to the research, 25 of the 50 respondents agree that SME have network relationship with government. The primary resources for SME network relationship with the government are mass media, social media, the government website, television news, and newspaper. SME need to be aware of the laws about lyserjatra, vaccinations, and temperature so that they don't get any summons in by government officials' statement. There are 20 of the 50 respondents agree that the policy of the government protects SME. On the 27th of March 2020, the Malaysian government started helping SME. They did by giving SME who their operation was hurt by the lockdown and the government restriction, they are given 50 billion in working capital loan guarantees. Also, employee could take the money out from their employment provident fund, which is EPF account for a year, but employers were permitted to reschedule their EPF compensation. On the 20th of March 2020, Bank Negara Malaysia cut the statutory reserve requirement SRR to 2%. Also, BNM increased the amount of business loan it could give by 4 billion, bringing the total of 13 billion. The overnight policy rate OPR was cut by 125 basis points to 1.05% for 2020 by Bank Negara Malaysia. The Bank Negara Malaysia announced on the 6th of November 2020 that it will add a number of facilities to help the SME sector. These facilities include around 2 billion targeted relief and recovery facility, 500 million high-tech facility, and 110 for existing micro business space. The Bank Negara Malaysia also added 2 billion to the Targeted Relief and Recovery Facility, which is TRRF, and 200 billion for the Disaster Relief Facility at the beginning of the month 2021. The Small and Medium Enterprise Association said that between 2019 and 2020, the sales for 34% of SME in Malaysia will go down by 20%. This happened because the government has started the MCO policy to stop the spread of COVID-19. This policy had limited people's freedom of movement and shut down the business. Therefore, SME had to change how they handle their business. Because of the uncertainty of MCO, the sales and profit for SME have a great impact. The MCO also had direct effect on the demand and supply, which led to an unstable market demand. The high unemployment rate also changed what people were interested in. Therefore, the market supply chain activity has become uncertain and difficult for SME. During the pandemic, some industries like airlines, automobiles, accommodations, and food and beverages were hit hardly by the pandemic. But some industry grew quickly because of the high demand, like pharmaceutical and medical sectors, healthcare equipment and supplies, contactless technology, and electronic transfer. The government also say that only certain sectors like banking and finance, logistics, and other essential services were allowed to operate. Most of the time, the prohibited sectors can't operate during MCO. Therefore, they can't run their business and to maintain their cash flow. The Prime Minister of Malaysia says that the pandemic has forced SME to use digital technology to help them to stay in the business. SME need to be updated to use the latest digital technology to increase their network with their suppliers, customer, and also their relationship with the importer and exporter. So the government of Malaysia is putting some plans to help SME become more digitalization. One of the plans is the National Technology and Innovation Sandbox, which helps the SME with creativity and innovation. They could speed up the digitalization of the new boost for SME. To help SME recover from the effect of COVID-19 pandemic, the first suggestion is that the government should restart the policy of extending the short-term financing of SME to a longer period to assist the business recovery without further burdening them with the cost of their loans and financing, which it will indirectly reduce their cost of their business. Even though COVID-19 is already in the endemic phase in Malaysia, the inflation rate keeps going up, which means that raw material costs, operating costs, and profit margins are also going up. Without stable profits, it will be hard for them to pay back their debts, and they will need more cash flow to pay for the asset they need to grow and make enough revenue to keep up with inflation and competition. For SME to survive this pandemic, the second suggestion is that Bank Negara Malaysia should keep the overnight policy rate the same and to not make it fluctuation. If Bank Negara Malaysia raise the OPR, the interest rate will go up and the business will be burdened because people won't be able to buy as much due to the cost of product will go up. They're affected by the high interest rate. It will cause less demand from the public. Low purchasing power will hurt the income of SME, which means they weren't able to pay their overhead costs and will make their business slow down. Also, as the price of goods goes up, SME won't be able to offer good price to the foreign companies. It will directly affect on the Malaysia export business. Furthermore, the owners of SME might miss out the important financial help or not utilize fully because they do not know about this type of government incentive. The government should create a campaign or promote through social media to raise the awareness of SME owners regarding the financial support and how they can benefit from it. Also, the government could teach them how to connect with investors or bankers in order to get the financing from them. This is clearly that digital transformation is one of the most important ways for SME to improve their operation, increase their productivity, and lower the costs. We think that Malaysia SME should have easier access to digital marketplace so they can do their business with customer without worrying about getting infected and can keep running during the lockdown period. So we encourage the use of ICT through the digitalization can help to manage their business and easy to explore to the market. To sum up, the goal of this study is to find out what SME owners think and feel about how Malaysian COVID-19 have affected their business and to understand their short-term survival strategies from their point of view. A business has to change in order to stay competitive. Business owners have to be flexible in how they run their business in order to compete with others' business in the market. SME must have a good plan for digitalization if they want to stay in this norm of COVID-19. SME can use the digital to make their product and services better and easier for them to connect the relationship with their suppliers, customers, and also their import and export relationship with foreign country. Future, technology will get better to help the SME expand their business. However, SME need more outside help from government as well together to make the economy of Malaysia grow healthy. That's all for the presentation. Thank you.